Welcome to Youthful Conversations and our seventh episode. I hope you guys are doing amazing tonight. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I got a new look. This is the first time people have seen me with my glasses. Usually, you see me without my glasses, but I just became blind. Like, I went to the eye doctor, couldn't see, now I need glasses. So I just got my glasses. So I hope you guys are rocking with the new look. But that's besides the point. So today we're going to talk about something that is extremely important, and it's something that is coming up in these coming months, which is politics. And I know for our younger generation, a lot of us don't really pay attention to politics because either we think it's not important or there's a lot of misinformation spread on the internet. So today we are going to give you a unplugged version of politics, and we're gonna make sense of the government for all the young people who really think it's not important. So today I got some really heavy hitters with me on the show, ready to educate me on politics, because I'm not that great. I'm gonna admit my flaws. I'm not that great on politics. So I got some real heavy hitters today talking and educating about politics, and we're gonna dive deep into this conversation. So we're gonna go around the table and introduce everybody, and then we'll jump right into our first question. So Mr. Councilman Hugh Holston, would you like to start us off?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jeremiah. I am Hugh Holston, member of the Greensboro City Council, a member at large, actually only the third African-American to win an at-large citywide race in the city's 216-year history. Also, I serve as the CEO of the Greensboro Housing Coalition, a 501c3 nonprofit where we advocate for fair, safe, healthy, and affordable housing in Greensboro. And very happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
I'm grateful to have you on the show. You do a whole lot of different things, so I'm grateful you was able to clear up your schedule to come have a conversation with us tonight.
Of course, for you, I wanted to see the glasses.
Yes. They've been a big hit recently. People have loved seeing the new look with the glasses. So, Chassity Gustav, you've been on the show before. We're glad to have you back.
I had to come again.
Yourself?
I'm an artist from Queens, New York, and I moved here, North Carolina, just to get better opportunities. And, I met you here, so, I just been vibing out. So now I'm here ready to talk.
We appreciate you for coming out and vibing with us. Because vibing, you can vibe anywhere. But being on the podcast, being able to catch a vibe with us, and being back the second time, we really appreciate you. So Miss Lily Oatis, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself because you got your own podcast with the politics. So we're gonna let you get in your own.
Yes, my name is Lily Oatis. I am the founder and host of the podcast Not Just Headlines, where my main goal is to engage young people in local politics by currently interviewing the candidates who are on the ballot.
That's dope.
Nice.
We're definitely going to be educated on politics today. Hopefully, you don't get too pressed today because you're running for office again, aren't you?
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
Next year, though. It'd be October, November of next year, 2025.
Got you. So hopefully we don't get you caught up. So we're going to make sure we...
I didn't say Project 2025. I said
we're going to get
2025.
2025. All right, so we're going to hop right into our first question. How do you guys think schools are preparing you, or how do you guys think your school is preparing you or did not prepare you to understand and participate in politics?
Is that for me first, or?
I go first. I think school hasn't done as well of a job as they should have for preparing people for politics or even getting involved. I know a lot of schools, they'll do like getting you registered for voting, but what's next after getting you registered? They're not telling you to go out and vote. They're not telling you to actually look and understand who is going to be on that ballot, what goes into going to that ballot and voting, taking your time and understanding what you're clicking, making sure you're understanding what you're submitting. So I don't think they're doing as good as a job as they should be doing, because it seems like they're taking the first step, but taking the first step, that's like kind of the easiest part. Now you got to fight the battle of preparing them. Now you got to fight the battle of educating them. Now you got to fight the battle of actually helping them be ready for when it's time to vote.
I agree. You want to go?
I just wanted to say that, like, when I was in school, that was the COVID years of high school. So it happened freshman year. So I had like the little freshman civics class. COVID hit. I don't remember any other school assignment after that, because everything was online. And then I got back to school. And then actually my senior year, a girl in my class actually lost her life to gun violence. Like, not my class, like I think she was a class below me. She was a junior. And I really saw, you know, a lot of people get involved in that because technically that is politics as well, because there was a conversation about gun violence. There was this big walkout that the school allowed and a protest at the front of the school. So it was like they were allowing us to have our space and our voice in that aspect. But as far as further education is like, okay, so now we have your attention. What is the next steps? Like where, like who decides these laws and stuff? It was just kind of like, you know, you can have your moment, but after that, everything kind of went back into, you know, structure.
I wish they had told us about how to have leadership without being like fearful, because I know when I used to see videos of Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, they wound up in jail or even assassinated. So I wish they would have told us about how to like go about talking about politics without fear and like being confident in our decisions, because kids don't know what they're talking about and they're scared to talk about it. They're scared to have an opinion because they think they're going to get bullied out of it. And so I wish they would have told us that.
I'm going to start it off by saying that it's been a minute since I've been in school like that.
I can't tell, man.
Yeah.
You don't look a day over 20.
A day over 20. It's been a minute.
Okay.
But when I was coming through, we really didn't have any of this stuff. It was reading, writing, and arithmetic. All this career training and business entrepreneurism wasn't there. So obviously voting and the political process wasn't there either. Where we got it from was from home. I know that's where I got it from. I'm a news junkie. My father always got the old Newsweek and the Time magazines. They came in once a week, and I would read them from cover to cover. I read the newspaper from cover to cover. I watched the news even back then. And that's how I got my political chops, so to speak. It wasn't anywhere near the schoolyard. There was no one talking politics in the schoolyard.
No, it's kind of the same. I would say it's sort of the same thing, just taken to another level.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you got it from the news or the newspapers or the books. I want to say our age, our generation is in the era of information. So we're not getting it from the news. We're not getting it from the newspaper, the books. We're getting it from phones.
Right.
We're getting it from people on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting it from the dude who was hosting a concert in our local city.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're hearing it everywhere we're going. And it's like they're controlling the narrative of what politics is, because firstly, if you haven't done your research on what politics is first, then whatever somebody tell you, you're gonna be like, okay, that's what politics is. Oh, that's what politics is. And your idea is constantly gonna float because you're like, I don't have my own concrete definition of what politics is, what party I stand for, or whatever it is in politics, because you're just taking others' opinions. So especially in the age of information and technology, it is so important for us to do our due diligence, to be educated on what it means to understand politics.
Right. And that's so real, because when I was coming through, we really had one of two sources. One was you go to the library, which was usually some far place away. Or if you're lucky enough, and I remember the day it happened, that my mother and father bought a series of the encyclopedias. You know, it was printed, it was thick books, and you had a chance to go and read all of it. But it was one source, it was one perspective, one opinion. It wasn't what you have today where you can go here or go there and get 1,000 different things. It was one thing. And so when you wrote a book report, you went to that same place that everybody else went to. There wasn't a whole lot of variation. So that's where we had to, or at least where I went to the magazines, the news magazines, or to television. But none of the fancy stuff y'all have nowadays.
All right. So what improvements would you guys say that we need to implement as a society for political education?
I would say a platform, and we have AI, so you could bring up facts and have a system in place to where if somebody's trying to, push misinformation, the AI can, instantly delete that. Only true facts only. So we could do something like that. More community talks, more community groups, just things of that nature.
I like it. I think with AI though, when AI first came out, at least when ChatGPT first came out, ChatGPT wasn't allowed to talk about certain subjects. So when you would ask it, it'd be like, I can't answer this question. Do you have any other questions that I may be able to answer? So I remember when it first came out, I think we were doing an assignment in class about politics. And if you paid attention, if you watched the last podcast, how I talked about using ChatGPT for my homework assignments and different things like that, you will realize that when I was in this English class last year, my first 4 semesters at GTCC, one of our, I want to say our 3rd or 4th essay was about politics. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I don't really pay attention to politics because I think it doesn't affect me. So how am I gonna educate myself on politics? So I was like, I know, ChatGPT. Went to ChatGPT, I was like, ChatGPT, educate me on politics. It was like, I can't talk about politics. Is there any other questions you may have? Okay, I was like, okay, so let me ask a better question. What is the difference between the 2 parties involved with politics? So I asked, what's the difference between Democratic and Republican? And then he gave me an answer then. But then I was like, and I think it was at the time where Joe Biden was in office. So it started going down the rabbit hole of talking about what was the difference between Joe Biden and Trump. And I was like, okay, so now you're taking me through this rabbit hole. So I ended up writing my essay on what was the difference between Trump and Biden, because that's what it fed me, or that's what it told me, and that's what I was educated about politics. But I would say, like you said, have a platform where we're having community-based talks. Like if you're having a community-based talks, politics plays a large part in community. So if you're having community-based talks about what politics is, who should we vote for, what should we be doing when these politicians want to get in office, what questions should we be asking these politicians when they're coming to us talking about help me get into office? Like those community-based talks, I feel like would solve a lot of the issues, because when you realize the community has to vote for the politician to get into office, you have the control over that politician. So if we come together as a community, we'll realize the power that we have and how much we honestly could shift the dynamic of the world if we all just work together. Because it's not the politicians making the rules anymore. It's really the community.
Yeah, and with that, I would say, like, with community, it's amazing because you're able to spread information, because online a lot of things can get censored, like you were saying with the AI and stuff. And I remember when I first got into not just headlines and doing all this stuff, I realized Instagram automatically limits all the political content. When you download Instagram, it's already limited. You have to actually go and find it and say, no, I actually want the political content. So then when you get into communities, you can actually share that information and be like, hey, this stuff is, they're trying to hide some of this information from you. Because when you get into these politicians' face in person, it's harder for them to censor you when they're in front of your face. It's like, yeah, talk to me now. So with community, like, it's very, very important to not just rely on your phone and like go out and speak to people.
Yeah. Jeremiah, you just said something, is that you have the power, or we have the power, and we truly do. So many people spend so much time trying to convince you that you don't have that power. From my perspective, it's really just a matter of making sure that you're inquisitive, that you're asking the questions, that you want to know the answers. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It's not one where you sit on the sidelines and you say, like a tennis match, you do this and do that. You have to be engaged with it. And it's a group power. One individual vote, say in North Carolina, we have 10 million registered, we have 10 million registered residents. Now probably 8 million registered, but only 4 million vote. And people think, well, my one vote won't make a difference in that 4 million. But it really does, because you're voting as a group of people who think like you do. And so collectively, they're counting on you and you're counting on them to do the right thing. When somebody falls off, they become a spectator and they're just watching the game. Those are usually the ones that complain the most when the game is over. Oh, we didn't win. What did you vote? No, I didn't vote because it didn't matter. Well, it did matter. We need to be more inquisitive. We need to be more engaged. We need to come out of the bleachers and onto the field and be willing to lose. I can tell you there are so many people that I've met who are trying to figure out who's going to win, and then they want to vote for that person. I know Lily here. Lily's good. She'll be a great congressperson, but I think you're going to win. So I'll vote for you because I want to be on the winning team. We got to stop doing that. We got to vote for the people who we want to win, who we think are going to do the right thing, and do that collectively. That's why you have these PACs and these groups that come together, these like-minded groups that try to encourage folks to go out and do voter registration drives or canvassing or voting. That's the kind of platform. Those are the kinds of platforms that I like, where people are actually engaged, not just spectators watching and hoping, but actually on the field playing and making things happen.
Well, I got an actual question for Lily here, because you have your own podcast for questioning politicians, like you just said. How have you gone about asking and getting in these politicians' face to where they can't ignore you? Like, they have to give you an answer and they have to be honest about it.
Oh, wow. So I'm an introvert. I'm not really in a getting in your face kind of girl. I'm just,
I don't know.
kind of
I've
background.
seen the interviews.
Yeah.
They seem pretty in your face.
I've been on one. I know.
Yeah, but I try to balance it in a way that doesn't scare people away from politics, because you don't want to talk about every single problem, and then people get like scared and petrified to like go outside. But I do try to hold them accountable with their information, because once they get an answer, they're held accountable to that. Like, that is recorded. They can't say that like they never talked about it. So I at least try to get them to say to these people what they're going to do, and just so people know, like, at a base level, what these people are standing for and what they're going to tell you to their face. So I love the questions like, do I push one party harder than I push the other? And I'm like, no, that's not what it's about for me. It's just about engaging these people and like holding them accountable to the standard that they're setting for themselves, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
It does.
All right, so let's get to our second question. How do you guys use social media to stay informed about political issues?
I love the memes. I just love memes. I love it.
No, I like the memes. I think they're funny, but a lot of people probably think they're controversial. I like the meme. I think it's Mark Robinson. I think he's the Republican Party.
Lieutenant Governor of North
Or
Carolina.
the governor of North Carolina.
Running for governor.
Yes, or running for governor. I love his memes. They crack me up so much. His memes are hilarious. And I'm like, there's no way you actually say this stuff on like shows and live conferences. I'm like, this is hilarious. These are funny. And people will like clip it and then they'll blow it out of proportion and then it becomes even more funnier. So it's like a mix of different stuff that he says, and they'll make it seem like one big bad sentence that he said all at one time. But I'm like, he didn't say that all at one time. It's just a bunch of different clips. But I do think it's quite funny.
Yeah, my nephew, he watched one of Mark Robinson's like ads and stuff. He was like, I wouldn't vote for him because he supports this. I'm like, boy, it's just like drama and all that stuff. I'm like, at the end of the day, you just gotta laugh about those commercials and like actually do your research, because he's just yelling at the screen saying stuff. I'm like, boy, you're 9 years old. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right. I get my go ahead.
Oh, yeah, okay. There's pros and cons of like posting memes about it. Like, the pros of it is people will like see it and then they'll want to like tap into it and see, who this guy is. But the downside of it is that like take it too much like as a joke and not actually pay attention to the message. So you gotta,
I can see that, because I mean, I've done my research on Mark Robinson, but when I first saw it, like the first, I want to say 3 times, I just laughed at it and just like scrolled past it. But my other times, I've looked at it and I was like, okay, who actually is this guy? Because I've seen him multiple times. It's the same things, the same videos. What is making him so popular, and that they keep clipping the same clips? So now I want to actually do my research on him. So I definitely see that point where people would see it so much and they'll start laughing at him like, oh, he's just a funny guy, I'll still vote for him. Or he didn't actually mean it's just a clip, like people clip stuff usually. So I definitely understand that point.
Yeah, Maya Angelou said that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And one of the tactics is to lower your defenses and to make you laugh and think that things aren't that serious, that, I would never do that. I said it, but I'd never do that. I was watching somehow just the other night, I was watching the old Richard Pryor movie about, what was it named? But they were buying the house And the couple who was leaving says that, oh, we're going to take the stairs and take the doors, take the windows. And they laughed after it. But after they bought the house and went to the house, the stairs were gone, the doors were gone, the windows were gone. They were serious about it. And that's just one way of enticing people to vote for someone that they might not ordinarily vote for. Now, for me, my political, I get mine from TikTok lives. And I sit there and I steam every night because I'll listen to one side of the story and I'll scroll and go to a different side of the story.
Yeah.
And I like to hear how people think and why they think that way. And that's what TikTok does for me. It gives me the live conversations. Sometimes it's raw conversations, but people are saying how they feel. I don't blame them for doing that. It's just helpful for me to know how they're thinking.
I like the lives as well. I also like Instagram Reels. I don't be on TikTok.
Mhm.
So you'll catch me on Instagram Lives and Instagram Reels. So the Instagram Reels are, I would say, very, what's the word? Biased. Because it's like one person's perspective.
Right.
But when I use it, I try to understand where the person is coming from firstly. So why do you feel this political party is wrong? Because usually when you're on Instagram or you're on any kind of social media platform, the things that gets likes, the things that gets attention is usually bashing somebody or hating on somebody. So 9 times out of 10 is over the top extreme hate on somebody else. So I'm like, okay, why do you hate on this person so much? What did he actually do? So like you said, I like the actions. So listening to what he says, but then also doing my research on that person's actions. Because now the actions can't lie. The words, you can finesse words every day of the week. Like I can finesse words, make y'all believe anything I want y'all to believe just from telling y'all what I want to tell y'all. But if my actions don't line up with my words, y'all gonna be like, he's lying because his actions are completely different, but his words told me something else.
Right.
So I love the actions quote from Maya Angelou. That's how I say her name. I always get her name jacked up. But I love that quote because it's like you can tell somebody by their actions, not by their words. So
yeah, you've been very fortunate because you're doing research on what you're seeing. What a lot of politicians are counting on is that you're not going to do that research.
Right.
That you're going to get caught up in doing something else like work or food or school. And I'll get to it later on. The next thing you know, you're standing in the voting booth and you start laughing at that meme. Oh yeah, I'll give it a shot. What could it hurt? Could hurt a lot.
I like that one vote thing you said too. Somebody gave me, I want to say it's an exaggerated example, but I feel like it's a realistic example at the same time. He was like, what if he put it in a sense of bad, good parties. He was like, what if the bad party won by one vote and you didn't vote? What now?
There's an example. I won't say a bad party, but it was just 4 years ago in Virginia. It was a state legislative office, and it ended up in a tie. It was literally a tie.
That's crazy.
And the crazy thing about that, it made it even crazier, was that this last seat was the one seat that was going to determine who had control of the gavel and the agenda and the actions
Of the Supreme Court?
No, of the state of Virginia in their house. And do you know how they solved it? Because it was a coin flip.
So they did it based off
Coin flip.
Wow.
They flipped a coin. And one party got the gavel and they could control the agenda. And if that was the party that you wanted to be in control, you were happy. If you weren't, then you were suffering for 2 years. And that's all because somebody decided to stay at home. They were tired. They just didn't feel like going. They drove right past the voting booth, and they could have put their party, their person, their positions in a position of power, but they didn't.
Wow. So gotta get out there and vote.
Got to get out there and vote.
Cannot ignore it. And my mom always, when she would vote, she would always get the little "I voted" stickers. I thought those were so interesting because people would wear them with like pride. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
the "I voted" sticker actually does like represent like pride. Like you went out there and voted, got out your comfort zone, voted for the people you believe in or the people who you believe support your belief systems at least. So if anything at all, you don't want to vote, find something silly to motivate you to vote.
right.
So maybe that silly little "I voted" sticker motivates you to vote.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to find something that makes you want to get out there.
Mhm.
Or I think somebody, well, at least for our school, we did student government. So we would vote for like who we wanted in our student government office.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think they do this on like statewide or government wide. But for our school, if you voted, you got like some candy or something.
Mm.
Find something. Like even if you don't want to vote, find like a little good piece in it. But I voted and I got something out of it.
Right.
I would simply say just be a little careful, because some people would call that a bribe, and you might end up at the big house or the little house if you're quote unquote bribing. So
Got you.
I just have my for certain. I always vote. I've only missed a couple of votes in my entire lifetime, but for certain, in my cabinet at home, I have my 2008 and 2012 I voted stickers.
Oh wow! See, I love those I voted.
Mhm.
We always thought they were so funny. But let's hop into our third question. What do you guys think are the biggest challenges young voters face today?
I think it's subjectiveness. It's like politicians, both parties usually push the fake side of the world. They don't really push the real side. You know, people want to talk about how they're overworked and underpaid, or how they're unemployed and they're not getting their benefits like they should. And I feel like, you know, our generation, they don't see that. And they know that we don't see it. So they want to push it as much as possible. And we just need to figure out what's the real information and what's the fake information.
So, what, from a young person's perspective, are you voting this upcoming?
Yes. At first, I was hesitant because I don't really like politics. But I was like, I seen it Project 2025 and I was like, I can't do that to my kids. I just can't. So
Hallelujah.
I just couldn't. So I changed my mindset. I'm pretty sure everybody else can too. So yeah, I will be voting. I'm not gonna say for who, but
Well, I can't vote this year. I'm not gonna be 18 this year. So next, what is it? Not 2020.
you can motivate.
I can motivate, but I can't vote. I want to be able to vote. But what would you say motivates you to vote? You said that the Project 2025 helped you change your perspective. But what alongside that will help you motivate yourself to get out there and vote?
Well, really everything. Like I seen the Abortion Rights Act and they was trying to take control of our bodies. And I'm a, strong believer in all power to the woman. So I found it funny how you can have control over a woman's body and say what she can do, even though you came out of one. So I was just like, you can't do that. And they hear that, but it doesn't really click in their head. So I'm on here speaking about it so it can.
I like that. So you would vote you like to feel like empowered in your situation,
Yeah,
and not like
course.
someone has complete control over it.
Mm-hmm.
So by voting, it gives you that I was able to change the dynamic of what was trying to be put over me.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I mean, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah, I say a lot of times, as Chassity said, this misinformation. As I said before, we had the encyclopedia that was printed and it was there, it was fixed. But you mentioned ChatGPT, AI, and also there are different channels that you all can be reached that they're targeting you specifically. Right. The four of us are sitting right here, but Lily's getting a targeted message saying, don't vote, doesn't really matter. Just stay at home because they're all alike. They're all going to hurt you. So don't even participate in the process.
Right.
The sad thing is that the person who's sending that text or that DM, whatever it is standing in line at the polls ready to vote because they know that if she doesn't vote, their vote becomes more powerful, has more weight. Right. And, your voice is your vote and your vote is your power. And you never give up your power. I mean, if I ask you for your cell phone power cord, you'd be like, get out of here. Right. That's mine. But when it comes to somebody controlling a $400 billion budget, you see, I'll go ahead and do it. I mean, I don't care if you do it yourself. I don't need to have any impact in that. But you really do need to have impact. Mm-hmm. And you need to look at things like Project 2025 and what the implications of that are. I mean, someone has a blueprint and they printed their blueprint, you're going to believe that they're going to do it, or they just did it for the fun of it? All 800 pages. They mean it. They mean it seriously.
And when I originally got into the podcast, I was like, okay, people aren't voting maybe because they don't have the information and they don't know the information on the candidates. And then when I had that information put out and I actually started talking to people, they really didn't want to vote. And that was like totally bizarre to me. I was like, well, why don't you want to vote? And then especially as a Black woman, I just looking at myself and I'm like, people died so I could vote. There were people who were literally risking their lives for me to be here. And so that's why it's so much more important for me. Even if it's like the person that I vote for doesn't win, my ancestors and then my future children can still look back and be like, oh, as a Black woman, she was able to vote and she allowed her voice to be heard.
Absolutely.
So with your podcast, what have you done to like motivate other young people to get out there and vote?
I mean, it's a lot of people don't know what they don't know. Right. And so once you bring that information to them, they really like, everyone has something they want to fight for. And you just have to find that thing that like matters to a person, like what you were saying, Project 2025 and like abortion and all that stuff. And then once you realize that like in actually talking to these politicians, it's like they decide how much your groceries cost, your gas, all of this stuff. And it's like, you just have to find something with everyone that's like, you know, it's going to affect you no matter whether you want it to or not. So I kind of cater to the specific person and I just look at them and I'm like, okay, like I'm going to bring this to you and say, this is what they control. And then it's up to them at that point.
Wow. I mean, there's so much to like go off of that, like playing on a person's triggers, like being able to play off people's triggers. I think that's in a book I read. It was called like the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene or Green. I forgot. I'm gonna say his name. I'm bad with names, but he wrote this book called 48 Laws of Power, and one of his laws of power is understanding a person's weakness or triggers. Because once you understand a person's weakness or triggers, you can control that person.
Right.
So now that I hear like the perspective from both of you guys and you understand what goes on a lot in the media. Like they'll play it so much on your triggers that you won't even pay attention to it, or you're just like, oh, I'm not even listening to this no more. You'll just completely shut it off and be like, I'm not even gonna vote anymore.
Right.
Or they'll get you in a position where they'll joke about it and make you think that it's not true, and then you'll vote for that person, and then you'll realize, hey, they were actually being pretty serious when they said that stuff on the internet. So understanding that people play on triggers and people play on your weaknesses and your thoughts all the time, and gaining control of your thoughts, your weaknesses is so important now, especially in this election, because not only do we have the potential of having the first female Black president in history, is we also have the potential of Project 2025. So it's like you got both sides.
Right.
So what side do you really agree with more? Now for me, I haven't decided on a party. My mom gets mad at me all the time. I don't agree with Democratic or Republican yet, and I gotta figure it out soon. Right now I'm an individual. But we have to understand that when you're on the internet, when you're on the social medias, when you're on your phone 24/7, people are going to play on your triggers so that they can get that power from you to make their power more.
Absolutely.
So let's hop into...
They're going to play in your face is what they're going to do. And you have to figure out if they're playing or how much they're playing. And until you do that, they're going to continue to do that. So you're exactly right. Your voice is your vote. Your vote is your power.
All right, let's hop into our fourth question. Can you share an example of a youth-led movement or a cause that you have been involved in or inspired by?
I have one. Back when I was at UNC Chapel Hill, and again, I was steeped in politics, you know, the TV and the news and stuff. And we had a professor, assistant professor, who was going for tenure. And tenure is basically, being able to retire at the university. Her name is Sonia Stone. And she was more than qualified. She had all the credentials. She had everything in check. But the university refused to give her tenure. And so we, as a group vote, I was also a member of the Black Student Movement, not called the BSM. We marched. We marched on the South Building, which was the administrative building, and we marched on a regular basis. I recall even sometimes we would look up, and there would be officers, soldiers on top of buildings with guns, because we were marching for tenure, which didn't make any sense to us. But we continued to do it because it was the right thing. And eventually, the university did offer her tenure. She accepted it. And if you ever go to UNC Chapel Hill, there's now a building named after her. Now you think about that. Someone who they were trying to deny tenure ends up getting tenure, then has a building, which is right next to Kenan Stadium, the football stadium. It was worth the effort, worth the fear that they tried to instill with us, with the folks taking pictures and the officers and the guns.
Right.
But we knew we were doing the right thing. Maybe it was youthful silliness, but we felt we were doing the right thing, and I was so happy to be a part of that cause.
Yeah. One of the, I would say, the youth-led movements that have inspired me and I was involved in was when I went to Vegas for the NAACP.
Mm-hmm.
So the youth and college division, well, the whole NAACP's call to action this year was all in.
Okay.
Are you all in for democracy? Are you all
Right.
in for your vote? Are you all in for your power?
Mm-hmm.
Are you all in this year? So this year, the youth and college division did something extremely well where we all was working together, educating ourselves on what it meant to be all in and what it requires of us to be all in. Because anybody can tell you to be all in, but what are you going to be all in for?
Mm-hmm.
So we were learning about the history of democracy, what it took for us to get to democracy and to go from a place where we weren't being heard to now we have the ability and the option to be heard if we so choose to.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the movements that inspired me was the NAACP All-In Youth and College Division.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was an amazing event. They had the president, Joe Biden, come out and speak. He did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
He did a good job. I loved his
Mm-hmm.
speech.
Mm-hmm.
He has amazing crowd control. He's able to rile up a crowd really quickly off a few words, a few sentences. He's able to rile up a crowd. But that movement right there helped me learn what it's like to, well, it was like my firsthand experience of what is to see people from around the country coming together for one common goal, to fight for that common goal, to be educated for that common goal, and then actually move forward to achieve that common goal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You want to go? I'm a strong believer in studying the past because the past is our future. And there was this group in the 60s, the Black Panther Party, founded by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. And they had programs all across the U.S. They had about plus like 10 divisions maybe. And that inspired me. They was doing food programs. They was doing health clinics. And they was doing a whole lot of things for the community, just giving information out, walking around trying to show that they could bear arms and, fight for our community. And so seeing that documentary and just studying it, it definitely inspired me.
Can you ask the question again?
Okay, so can you share an example of a youth-led movement or cause that you have been involved in or inspired by? And if not, what is a youth-led movement that you would consider starting?
Wow. I actually don't think I have an answer to either of those questions because a lot of my stuff that I do is faith-based and faith-driven. So I usually just go to and do what God guides me to do. So it's not necessarily that I'm in a youth community. I'm actually like one of the few youth around doing what I do. So especially when I go to events, they're like, oh my gosh, we have a young person here. So I definitely just going where God wants me to go. So I have no idea what the future it has in store for me, what I want to do further with like organizations and groups, because that's specifically why I'm nonpartisan, is to like not alienate anyone. Because just for me, like, yes, everyone has things that they believe in, but as soon as you start, for me, putting your beliefs like forefront, you're kind of like making other people feel like their voices don't matter as much. If I'm like, okay, so with this business, you know, this is what we believe, blah, blah, blah. And then I just really want to make sure that I'm connecting all of these people to politics, because if we're saying we want everyone to vote, we need to get everyone out to vote. So it's not necessarily for me about like one individual cause, because the whole cause for me is getting all of the youth in the voting box, if that makes sense.
I think that's a movement in its own. I think
That it is.
I think you literally described the movement like get young people to vote and to get them to understand their power, and that they have the power if they choose to vote, if they choose to fight, if they choose to advocate. You literally described your own movement while trying to like avoid the
yeah, you gotta like talk it out.
Very well.
You like avoid the question, but then as you talk through it, you was like, okay, maybe I do actually have a movement in mind that I would like to do. But I like the movement, the getting young people to vote, because a lot of us don't believe we have power. Like a lot of us are dealing with a whole bunch of different mental issues, and we're all down on ourselves, we're depressed, full of anxiety, believe we're not worthy.
Sorry, I started agreeing for a second. He said depressed, and I was like, oh no. But yeah, I get it. I was like, yeah. But...
So it's like, you know, a lot of us are dealing with a lot of different issues, balancing our day-to-day
coming out of COVID.
Right, COVID and school. So a lot of us throughout this whole journey of being young people, it's like you see our generation is kind of like, they kind of like lost hope in themselves a little bit.
So many people are afraid of you all, because once you realize what your power is, kind of like that superhero that realizes they have, then y'all can run so many things if you come together and you vote. Now, you're not necessarily going to vote alike, but if you show up and go to that voting booth, you'll make a difference. Like that case in Virginia, that one vote, or it could be, you know, 2,000 votes. And in a local election, that could make a huge difference if you come together and vote. But again, there are a lot of people who don't want you to vote, or may even tell you you're not educated enough. You don't understand enough about what's really going on. And that doesn't matter. The matter is, if you're eligible to vote, then you can vote. It's the politician's responsibility to educate you so that you know about us and why you should be voting for us. We shouldn't be hoping that you don't get out there, that you don't participate, or that we send you the wrong voting date or the wrong voting information. We should be educating, and you should be considering to vote.
I was going to say something. Shoot. Jesus, this podcast. What was I going to say? I was going to...
It'll come back.
Maybe it'll come back when we're going to our next question. So, why do you guys think local politics matter? And how can young people start getting involved in their communities?
About turning 18.
Firstly, that's like voting. That's the first step. You got to be 18. But the second step is just getting out there. I think you posted a video recently where you was like, how do I get involved with the local politicians and being able to meet these people? We're in the age of social media. We're in the age of technology. We're in the age of information. If you look it up, you'll find it. So if you want to get out there, you want to get involved, you want a new perspective, you want something different, look it up and find it, because it's there. So if you want to get involved with your community, if you're sitting at home and you feel like people have the power over you, you feel like you're being controlled, take your power back and do the research, find the work. You're like for me, I was tired of feeling like I was being controlled. Like the Instagram, you know, like you said, sometimes you'll take it as a joke, but eventually it get to a point you're like, is this dude really serious?
Right.
Or is he joking?
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, let me do my research on who this dude actually is, so I can understand what he actually believes in. And then with the Project 2025, people were joking about that for a few months in my school at least. So they were joking about what Project 2025 was. I was like, what is Project 2025? I've never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then people started posting it on social media. I was like, okay, so what actually is this? And I started doing my research on Project 2025, and I was at 800-page documents of just an agenda of things they want to achieve and things they plan to do when they get people in office. So now it's truly understanding what it is.
Yeah.
So just getting involved, getting out there, and going searching for it.
Yeah. I said earlier that democracy is not a spectator sport. What you can do here locally is, because what's the importance of the local politicians, is to come see what your city council does, come see what your county commissioners do. We have set schedules. We cover a lot of topics, and we spend a lot of money, a lot of your money, whether it's sales tax money or whether it's property tax money. And you should know where your money is going. You should have an interest in that. Here in the city of Greensboro and also in the county, we have boards and commissions that you can be a part of. You can join those boards and commissions, and you can do the work. It's basically committee work. Committee work on behalf of city council, the committee work on behalf of the county commissioners. And while you're doing committee work, you can also learn how the system works, what's important, what's on the agenda. But you also are doing another thing, is you're connecting with your fellow board and commission members, who may be a fellow student, it may be a future employer, who 3 years down the road, Jeremiah, Chassity, Lily, I remember you. I see your application is here. You have a chance to actually build and grow that network. So that's one way of doing it. And you also mentioned that, people wonder what's the importance of city government. And I've had that question before. They said, well, what do y'all really do? You really make a difference. And I said, well, ask the questions. I said, well, where do you live? They told me where they live. I said, well, city council, we run the trash service around here. What if we change your trash service to once a month instead of once a week? They said, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can. If I get 4 other people, that makes 5 of us, 5 out of 9 is a majority. We can do that. And so you're voting or not voting. And by the way, not voting is voting, because you're giving someone else the power to make that move. Is that you have to make sure that you have skin in the game, that you're not a spectator, but you're on the field, boards, commissions, voting, and then voting.
I have a question about petitions. When somebody makes a petition, it gets the number of votes that they wanted. What happens after that? Who do they send it to?
And your petition is usually is given to whomever you're trying to influence. It may be to a committee, it may be to city council, it may be to the county commissioners, but it's not binding. It's basically saying that 10 of us, 50 of us, 200 of us feel this way. And whoever you're presenting it to will take that into consideration. Not guaranteed they'll go that way. They may go in the opposite direction. There are many times there have been petitions presented to us. We understand it, we appreciate that, and then we make decisions that may go with it or may not go with it. But they're always very helpful because it lets us know the depth of the interest in that position.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys, what happened?
No problem.
All right, we're good. All right. So my last final question is: have you guys ever been involved in any local political activities or event?
No, not at
Just a couple. Not a fair question for me, being an elected official. So I've been involved in quite a bit of things, and I really enjoy that because I get a chance to meet and engage. And as I shared before, I get to listen to how people think. Not that I'm going to go with how you feel, but it's important for me to know, because I may feel a certain way, but you may have a whole different idea, and you may school me, and I may change my mind based upon the conversation I have with you, as you brought some new facts to the table that I didn't realize. I'm always open to that kind of thing.
I can't say I've ever been to a political thing. I mean, if you consider maybe Joe Biden coming to the NAACP as a political event, but
That would be
other than that, I don't think I've ever voluntarily went to. I think I've been in events with politicians where they have spoken or we've had conversations, but I can't say I've actually let me go to this politician. Whatever it looks like. Sounds like. But from your experience, because you've been to quite a few of them, what are they like? Are they like fun events, having constant conversation?
Lots of energy.
You've been to there.
Well, I tell you, I just got back from Chicago at the Democratic National Convention, and it was incredible. If you watch it on television, in person, it was 10 times more energetic, more electric, more engaging, more entertaining. I didn't go to investigate. Right. It was a bunch of political people who came together, and they were coming to offer their nomination to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and they accepted and gave their speeches, and then everybody was speaking around them, supporting, and it was just phenomenal. But it's like any other group that you're part of. It doesn't have to be political. It can be a school-based event. It can be a community-based event. Those are really all political events. The work. I mean, you heard the term office politics. It's all the same stuff. There's politics going on here in the city park. There's politics going on at the Greensboro Coliseum. It's a different kind of politics, but it's still politics. You know, who has the power? Who has control? Who gets to do what? When, where, how? You're at the club. You're at the club. Who's going to sit here? Cafeteria. At campus. Who sits at the cool table? Who sits over there? That's all politics. And so, I know Chassity said earlier that she didn't like politics. What I try to share is that everything we do is about politics. Some of it is more formal than others. And so it's a game, but you're not in the game. So you get the cool table, you're not the table, you got the microphone, you got the audience. You got the job, you got the boss. That's politics. Rolling.
Some of the more formal things that I've done, probably a few years ago, I went downtown. I went to Raleigh. Talked to the people in office about passing the bill, and just making my thoughts heard about a specific issue. I no longer believe in that anymore. But you like change your mind and get more informed. But that is what I've done for
the Kamala Harris rally before, stuff like that. But it's a lot of people have a lot of energy, and like you get to hear people's story and like why they're out there, and you just make those connections.
Might have to check one of these events out.
Yeah.
But I really like the perspective that politics are in everything. I'm pretty sure I've heard it before. Politics are in everything that you do and that we do. But I don't think I ever, I'll say, take it seriously, I guess. Because I thought they were joking.
So,
But
when we came here this afternoon for your podcast,
yes,
we knew where not to sit. There. Because you're sitting there.
Yeah.
That's politics. If we didn't hear about the politics, then somebody would have walked in here, I'm going to sit right here. I don't care where Jeremiah sits. I mean, that's the politics of it.
And even like what time this building closes, like how long you're allowed to be here, like whether you like it or not, like they make that decision for you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think this was an amazing conversation about politics. You guys have informed me so much. And I personally want to thank you guys for being on this show, taking time out of your day, taking an hour to come out, be with me, and share information with the audience, be able to exchange ideas with people at the table and in this room. I am greatly appreciative. I want to give some shout outs. I want to shout out GSO Peace Corps for providing the building
All right.
and giving us the space to record this podcast with all these amazing people. I want to thank my production team, Mr. William Hussey and Chewy Monroe, for being here and believing and helping me set up my show. I want to thank you guys for being here. You guys have taken amazing time out. I want to thank the audience for tuning in for an hour, learning about politics, educating yourself about politics, and then I'll give a takeaway lesson. The takeaway lesson is politics aren't everything. Sometimes it's more formal, sometimes it's not as formal, but everything is politics. So understanding that politics plays into everything we do and that understanding it is going to be essential to, I would say, living life.
Exactly right.
So I want to thank you guys again for being on the show. This was the 7th episode of Youthful Conversations, Politics Unplugged, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you guys.
Congratulations, Jeremiah.
Woo!